What's up, everybody? This is Calvin Buchanan.
And this is Cornel Beard of UnderRepresented, the podcast about design and culture. And today, we got a special guest here today.
DJ Blasé in the building, man.
A lot of things to go through today. But as always, before we dive into any type of content, we want to go through what y'all listening to these days.
I'm heavy on some trap music right now. T.I., Gucci Mane, OJ Juice, like all that.
Yeah.
Way back Georgia trap music, taking it back to what's that? Early 2000s with that.
Yeah. Is there a why? Like why that's been heavy lately? Somebody been trying you at work lately?
Nah. But the thing is like so I got some gold fronts. I've been rocking those all week, and I've been in my car, and I was like, you know what? What's the vibe with these gold fronts?
You don't know me.
That's right. So we on that. Dope
like
boys in the trap. What about you?
For myself, as you know, I'm a old soul at times. I mean, even when y'all walked in, I was smoking some old school.
Right.
But honestly, a lot of old Jay-Z. What's it called? Reasonable Doubt.
Okay.
Heavy on that earlier this week. Some like Frank Ocean, Blonde album.
Okay.
Because I had that little shit Blonde. Okay. On my rotation lately too. Anything dropped this week at all? Any new albums?
Oh, there's a lot.
That came out
Wayne
recently.
did a new one with Rich the Kid. I heard
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty
listened
good.
to it,
I ain't listened to it yet, so people don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Every week there's new projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also went back in the day to Drake's Room for Improvement album. I've been bumping that kind of
Okay.
like midweek this week. So,
Much respect.
what about for yourself?
Right now I've been listening to a lot of like this new neo soul vibe. I've really been liking Lucky Day and Brent Faiyaz, like a lot of stuff like that. 'Cause I'm listening to so much trap music in the club, heavy bass, that it's like when I get in the car, I just need like mellow.
Right.
Cry to a little bit, right?
Yeah, so people get in the car with me, they be shocked because they be like, "Oh, you about to play new Drake?" I'm like, "Bro, I played all that last night. I'm about to play mellow vibe." So I'm a big R&B head. That's like really what got me into music. So
Yeah,
a
for
lot
sure.
of R&B always.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So I mean, as everybody's listening right now, I know they're thinking like, you know, who is this DJ Blasé? Like, what's he about? Like, what's he on? And so, I know you as a DJ, and I don't know much other than that.
Yeah.
For yourself, how would you describe your career?
As far as just my DJ career or just in general?
You take it however you want to take it.
Man, my career just has a lot of ups and downs, honestly. Before I DJ'd, I worked corporate America. I worked at Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
No dreads, short fade, suit every day.
Okay.
People are always shocked by that. But I've always just had a knack for talking. I've always been good at talking to people. My mom always made sure I knew how to talk. I was the only child, single parent, so she was kind of like, you know, doors aren't going to be open for us, so we have to make sure, you know, we're outspoken and know what we want. So I've always been able to good at building connections.
I love that.
At a young age. So I was always in sales jobs. I would always get put in sales jobs. I went to college. I went to Normandale for about a year and a half. I dropped out. I wasn't a fan of school. That just wasn't for me. Because I'm the person who always has, like, they'll ask the why, which typically is the kid that's viewed as, like, disrespectful.
Yeah, the trouble.
But I'm like, I need to know why this works, why we need to show the work for this if I got the right answer. I was that kid in math. So with college, that format just didn't really work for me. So I always got in sales jobs. So I worked at a car dealership. I worked at Wells Fargo. My first job out of high school was Finish Line. So I got in sneakers. Worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, was a sales manager there. So I always loved talking to people, but I didn't like selling. So when I got to the Wells Fargo, they were always trying to get me to sell stuff to people. And I was like, I'm not going to ruin people's credit and do all these things. So that's when I kind of thought, what could I do that's people-oriented, that's not selling to them? So I was like, I'll sell myself.
Yeah.
Which is how I got into DJing.
I like that.
I took a year off. I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. I took a year off, saved up a bunch of money, traveled with my boy DA, shout out to DA. We traveled all around. I ended up at Art Basel. So I told my mom, so I quit my job January of, I forgot what year it was now. I've been DJing for like 4 years. So I told my mom, basically, give me a year. So give me a year. I'm going to figure something out. If I don't, I will go back to Wells Fargo if I have to.
Yeah.
So December came, and I went to Art Basel. Literally. A year came quick. I didn't know what I was doing. I was low-key stressing. Ended up at Art Basel. If you don't know that, it's like a great art festival mixed with kind of like a hip-hop vibe now. So I like... it was like 1 a.m. or something at this party, and I looked around and it was like every race there, everybody was having a good time. So I looked at my homie, I was like, I think I could do this, bro. I was like, I think this could be the thing, because I always loved music, but I never thought about DJing. Because equipment's expensive, you know, all that stuff. You don't think where to start, no one to teach you. So I was like, I looked at my homeboy, I was like, I think I could do this, bro. He's like, yeah, of course you can, You know, just amping me up.
I like that.
Then I had my first show 2 months after that. So February the next year, I have my first live show. Shout out to Piff. That was my first ever show.
Yeah.
So I did a show at Piff, and then my career kind of just grew from there.
Yeah.
How did it grow from there? Like you said, no one taught you, kind of just, you at the party at Art Basel, then 2 months later. So how'd you get that?
So when I got back
from there?
So when I got back, I went on eBay, looked up. Well, I went on YouTube actually. Went on YouTube trying to find what was the intro controller to get. Controller is like the little small board you use. So I found like a cheap beginner one, $250. Ordered that. Then I just went on YouTube, started to figure out how to. I looked up all these videos of how to do this, how to mix, how to do these things, and then DJing is really easy to learn. I tell everyone this. DJing is really, really easy to learn. It's just how you put your own flavor on it. How do you make yourself different?
Okay.
The dynamic. I can teach you how to mix a record honestly within a day.
Yeah.
But it's how do I make myself different from you and your set? You know, if you want T.I. and I'm R&B head, how do I make it where I mesh both the worlds and play to the crowd? A lot of DJs mess up because they play for themselves. They're like, I don't care who's in front of me. I'm gonna play the same 40 songs. This is what I listen to in the car. So once I did that, I just kept practicing at the crib, doing that, and then like I said, since I was already a people person, people already had showed love to me because I never asked for anything. So once I announced the thing that I was doing, people connected me. You know, you've even done it for me. It was like, oh, Jay Blasé is a cool person. He's a good DJ. I'm going to connect you with this person. So then it just kept growing like that. And that's how the network
can we stop you right there with Blasé? Where's Blasé come from?
So DA, again, he came up with that name randomly before I was even DJing. So people don't know this actually. Between the Wells Fargo job, I did sneaker reviews. So I worked for Kicks on Fire. So I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was really big on the kick game, like crazy big on it. So that when I worked at Finish Line, everyone's like, you need to do something with shoes.
Yeah.
So I started doing YouTube reviews, and I got hired on Kicks on Fire, and I used to be called Mr. Shoelace. So that was like my Instagram handle, that was my YouTube handle, that was everything. And I got out the shoe game, I just was kind of over it. And my homie's like, bro, you need to change this. Like, he's like, you're so to me just as Shoelace, you're not tied to shoes anymore.
Right.
Like, what's your name gonna be? And I was like, I don't really know, bro. And like one day we was like out, and he was like, I'm gonna start calling you Blasé. Blasé is your name. I was like, all right, bro. And like, and a lot of people don't know in black community, Blasé, blah, you know, so on and so forth. That saying. So it just kind of stuck, and then the song by Ty Dolla $ign came out like after that, randomly. So then everyone was like, "Oh, like,
anthem, right?
This so I was like, that worked out great. Right. So once I started DJing, I literally just with the J in front of it, changed my Instagram name to I'm Jay Blasé, and then just rest is history.
That's wild.
Yeah, man, the stars aligned for me.
That's great.
It's like I think one of the craziest things about DJing is like it's almost like a medium role between like the audience and then the celebrity, like the person that made the song, you know?
Right.
And you're kind of now curating that vibe for the audience. So in a way, like there's a lot of DJs that, you know, do shows for millions of people, but no one really knows who they are, you know?
Right.
But they know that song by Drake that the DJ mixed with this old Michael Jackson song, and like now they know that remix, but they don't know who actually made that remix, you know?
Yep.
So like, what do you see for yourself as far as your career as a DJ? Do you want to be a celebrity someday? Do you want to more so like
That's a great question, because I kind of go back and forth on that. Like, so when I first started DJing, like my whole mindset was really naive. I was like, because I'm an introvert. I tell everyone I'm a true introvert. I can talk to people, but I'm really mellow. I pick going to the crib versus going out a lot, which blows people's minds. I'm in the club all the time. But so I kind of bounce back and forth between that. But I always kind of want to be on the entrepreneurial side. I think in my successive career, I always want to have businesses and be involved, but I want to bring up other DJs and kind of be behind the scenes at some point. Just because I don't like being in the front of it. Like I tell everyone all the time, I'm like, if I could have done like the marshmallow thing and wore a helmet and no one knew what I was doing, I would have done that. But I just didn't think of it. I didn't think my career getting as big as it was. So it's kind of weird now because I get identified random places like Target sometimes. It's kind of crazy as my career gets bigger. I'm like, oh, you know who I am? Like, you're the DJ at baseball bar. I'm
like the homie from my job. They went to you.
Like he walked up to me. He's like, oh, you're Cornel's boy. He told me that. I was like, oh, what's up, bro? Like,
together.
So it's like it's kind of crazy to see that balance. But I don't think I want my celebrity to get too big with it. I don't think that's like in my cards, but. If it happened, you know, I mean, I'd be willing. But I think my thing is kind of more so like curating the vibe. I like curating the vibe, and I want to eventually own venues. That's like my space.
Okay.
Where I think I could thrive and kind of like curate. Like, you know, you go into like a dope like coffee shop or ain't no spots and the music's playing and it's like vibe. You don't know really who's like. I want to be that person. Like, I want to be kind of more behind the scenes. So,
that's real.
Yeah. Cornel was saying that you kind of made a point about how DJs don't play to the audience, and like Cornel's like how designers don't do the same thing. Can you talk about that? Like, again, making that you are responding to the audience, because I know like designers make stuff all the time, and you're like, I think this is dope. Other designers think it's dope, but you're not addressing the audience or who the people this is for. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what sets me apart from a lot of DJs is before I started DJing, I was going out and I was, new songs were coming out. I was really going to the club a lot right when Travis Scott just started bubbling. Yeah. And I was never hearing it here. I was never hearing the music that was like hot. I was like, we felt delayed a little bit. Minnesota, I always told people was kind of like a following state a little bit. Yeah. With the sound, we follow Chicago and like the southern states. Right. But we never really set the tone of like the new vibe. Yeah. So every time we were going out, I'm like, I never hear these new artists that I want to hear. And I knew the crowd wanted to hear him. So once I started DJing, I was like, I'm going to start playing to what the people want to hear. Okay. So I was like, like I said, I'm an R&B head. I'll listen to R&B in the car all day. But I know I'm not going to play R&B at peak of the club. So it's really just learning how to read people. And I think me being in sales jobs taught me how to read different people. Okay. So it kind of all worked out that way. Okay. Does that answer your question?
That is. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Is there any kind of new things you broke? I know that we did the event and you kind of put me on to the BJ Chicago Kid type of joint.
That's what I was thinking of when you said like Chicago music.
Right.
Yeah, BJ Chicago Kid, that was my joint. You said what's some music I put people onto?
Yeah.
Man, I think
everything.
Yeah, that's a hard question to be humble for. I think I pride myself on like being the first to play everything. Like, okay. Anything that I think is hot, I think I'm good at predicting what's gonna be the hot record and what's gonna fall off. Okay. So every Thursday night, this is a tip for anybody who wants to DJ. Every Thursday night at 11 o'clock, I listen to all the new music the night before. Okay. So because every artist drops music at 11 our time. Okay. So I go on Spotify and Apple Music and I listen to all the music and then I know what's going to be the next record for tomorrow. So I DJ every Friday night. Okay. So I always try to put in a couple of those new records. So the crowd might not know it. And I think this is what scares a lot of DJs. That once you get that, like once the crowd goes crazy for a certain song, you always want that feeling. You're always chasing if they're not screaming, going crazy, then you think you're not doing well. Yeah. But I try to find that balance where it's like I'll throw in a new record that people might not know the words to, but that next couple weeks you're gonna be like, oh, that DJ played that a couple weeks ago. I've heard this. So that's kind of finding that balance. You gotta play the records that everyone knows, but still find a way to make it your own and sneak in those new records. Okay. Yeah. So I try to find a few that I can play that Friday night throughout the night.
Okay. I think that's a good way to go about it because, as we all know, like music is essentially like an archive for memories, right? Mm-hmm. And you're pretty much creating that memory for that person before they even knew that they will remember this moment, you know? And I find that too when I'm, traveling, whether it's in Vegas or Miami or LA or whatever, and I hear a song when I'm at the club and I'm kind of thrown off. And it's like, that's going to be forever ingrained in my head now when I hear this song. You know? Yeah. And like, you're in charge of that. Yeah. Like, you're actually in charge of that. You're creating memories for people, every night they come out.
That's the crazy part because I never really thought about that when I started the career. But it's like, now I DJ people's weddings. Yeah. And it's nuts because I'm like, they're always going to remember me.
That's true.
DJ that, like, made the reception lit. Right. So it's like it's kind of like a big burden, but it's like if you don't think about it, it goes really smoothly. Like you just have to treat every event kind of just like its own. Yeah. But I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'm like, dang, I'm like memorizing a lot of these people's like event history, right? Little kids and all these things. It's like crazy. So that's why I always try to make sure like I stand out.
Yeah. Actually, I want to go into that. You just mentioned kids. Yeah. So I know part of your career is DJing in the club scene and brunch scenes and things like that. But I know a lot of part of your career is also like the philanthropic endeavors that you go on too. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of young kids. That's like my main thing. So that's a shout out to Julius as well. He got me involved in a program called Young Life when I first started DJing. So when I first started DJing, I just had that Piff show. Juice used to work at Piff, and he was like, "Hey, you should come DJ for these high schoolers." And I always feel like high schoolers are underrepresented. No pun intended. Yeah, but especially black men, black young men when they're coming up. When I was growing up and going to like the roller gardens, things like that, there was no music really represented us. Hip hop was viewed as like bad. Right. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't playing the T.I. I was only hearing that in the car with my mom. Right. I wanted to hear it at roller gardens. I'm hearing chicken dance and these rain right. So I'm like, now that I get to work with high schoolers, it's cool because I can kind of be in these places. Like I got to DJ at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, and I got to play, Earth, Wind, and Fire and Aaliyah, and then I still got to play, I played Baby Shark for some of the young kids, right. And then I still got to play some Drake, so it's like cool because it's like I went to that same museum and I never heard any hip hop or any black artists ever. Yeah. So that's kind of what drives me to work with the young people because I try to tell young people all the time like everybody's path is going to be different. Yeah. But if you work hard at it, you can make it happen. I tell everyone I'm not meant to be a DJ, but the fact that I made it happen shows them they can do whatever they want. Yeah. So that's really what motivates me. So eventually I want to have a community center for young kids where they can kind of come do their work, have a podcast space if they want to like rent out the podcast space. Just because I know young people, when I thought about DJing even, I was in my 20s, I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. I can't afford this. How am I going to do this? So I know a 17-year-old kid who's like, college might not be my thing, or maybe I do want to do college, but I also have this dream of being, you know, Twitch streamer or whatever it may be. I'm like, you can do it. Like, you know, so if I can help them with the tools or connect them with people, you know, if I know someone who knows graphic design, I know who to connect them with.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all about building those relationships. So that's what really motivates me to do it.
Do they ever censor where you're playing at these events? Again, trying to get a hold of the playlist, like, we don't know if we want any TI in this event.
No, with the most corporate events, I'm typically referred to now. That's a great thing about like building your brand. It's kind of like you're referred to someone who knows what you do. So kind of it's like sit back and watch them work. Okay. Which is great. And you know, you just kind of use your judgment. You know, certain music's not going to be good in certain venues, but for the most part, they don't filter me. Like the only place I really get filtered is weddings, and that's because they're like, we don't want Cupid Shuffle, and I'm like, I don't want to play right. Like, I don't want to play Cupid Shuffle anyway. So that's like the only place where people are like, don't play this. Okay. But for the most part, I get freedom to do whatever I want.
That's dope.
But that came with like I kind of earned it.
Right.
It's like,
I guess even sitting in on that topic there, other than like the financing part of getting into like being a DJ and potentially having like the mouthpiece to talk your way to places, what do you feel like are the other barriers to entry for DJs? Specifically DJs of a younger, you know, Black Jordan or Black, you know, Jay Blasé coming into, like, what are the barriers for you to even get the work?
Barriers, I think it just kind of, you have to start early with kind of knowing what you want to do, because different venues are for different things. So like if you want to be, say like a corporate event DJ, it's going to be a lot harder to get to those corporate events because those people are a little more like restricted, like I was saying, with what you can do, what you can't do. So to get that kind of respect, it's like, you have to establish what you want to do right away, if that makes sense. So, like, when I first started out, I partnered with a place called Basin Bar, which is where I still DJ, because I looked at that as kind of like an open palette. It was a mostly white bar, but there was no cover charge, no dress code, and I know how many of my friends who had issues having dress codes going to, like, a lot of the black clubs, because they were like, oh, you have to wear a collared shirt, and I'm like, that's not really, like, the swag, you know what I mean? Like, it's like now Essentials has one, you know, I'm wearing a collared shirt right now, which is funny, but, like, when I go to the club and I would wear different clothes, they'd be like, oh, no, like, no ripped jeans. I'm like, what do you mean no ripped jeans? Like, all the biggest celebrities wear ripped jeans.
Right.
Can't wear ripped jeans, you know what
I guarantee Drake walking here right now with some ripped jeans.
Exactly.
Let him in.
You know, they'd be like, no joggers. When joggers got hot, I'm like, bro, these joggers cost more than like, you know what I mean? Like, not to flex, but I'm like, this is more than this person's dress pants if they got at H&M. You know what I mean? But so it's like, it was a weird thing. So when I saw that at Basin Bar, I was like, okay, this is the open palette where all my people can come through. And I can set the precedent of playing all different varieties of music. So I did that very early, and then that kind of opened up the palette of people being like, oh, this dude plays everything. Which then that's how I kind of partnered with Houston, and I did a lot more like black events, which was great. So I kind of, to kind of rewind on my question, I kind of got lost on attention there. But I say just kind of establish what you want and just go for it. You have to constantly like stay consistent and on brand with yourself. Whatever your brand is, you have to stay consistent with that. Like mine is like very like inclusive. Like everyone is involved, so it's like you have to make sure that's your thing. If you want to be the trap DJ, start making some trap mixes on Instagram. And start trying to reach out to people who run like Monarch and Gold Room and those type of things.
What do you feel like is the future for you as a DJ? Besides the entrepreneurial endeavors, like, is there a capstone project that like one day you can see yourself at Art Basel, like really on the one?
I want to do Art Basel. I'm like, I love Minnesota. Like I tell everyone, I love it. Like I've never been the person who's like, I want to move away. I don't know why. I just always love it here.
I like that.
So I think one of the big, I want to do one of the sporting events. Like I want to do a Wild game or a Twins game or a Vikings game. Like I feel like they don't like. It was so funny when I went on that rant on Instagram. So I went on a rant on social media for anyone watching, just kind of saying like black DJs aren't really represented as what they should be. But our music's always played. Like you'll hear DMX at the Twins game, but it's typically a white person DJing, which is a problem. That I don't know that person's history. You know what I mean? Like you'll go to the Twins game, you'll hear all the songs. You know what I mean? So I want to be one of those DJs up there. And there's been a couple DJs now that they've been starting putting in those venues, and they kind of have partnerships. But I think it'd be nice to have a residency at one of the sporting events.
I was gonna say, are those rotating DJs, or are they kind of like staff kind of people that are in there?
For the Timberwolves, they have like a resident DJ. That's like the only DJ who DJs there. And then the Twins, I went to a couple games and they're like rotating through DJs. So
Okay.
Kind of finding like the next up and coming, I think.
Okay.
Which is cool. But typically, like when you get those, like it's kind of tough with like the DJ game because it's like by the time you get those 40 minutes, a lot of DJs are older, and I like try to tell.
Yeah.
I try to like talk about it. I don't really have anyone to tell. I try to talk about it as much as I can. Like
Yeah.
the young people need to be representing
Okay.
sporting events. Like it should be a 40-year-old DJ up there who doesn't know the young kids coming to the Twins game. Like eventually, I'm gonna be too old to DJ up there.
Yeah. Right.
I tell everyone like eventually you have to kind of gracefully bow out. You know.
Yeah.
But you know once if you
I
strive
ain't
for
going
that,
never.
no one's ever gonna
Hold on.
no one's ever
Hold
gonna
on.
give
Don't
up their
never let go.
residency.
Right.
It's like a free check. You know, you're doing this. It's probably easy for them at this point. But it's like there should be a young person, probably younger than me. It should be a 21-year-old kid up there who knows the young kids.
Right.
You know, if you vet them right, like it's like there's not really a pecking order in DJing, which is hard. It kind of gets really like they kind of butt heads a little bit.
Right.
That makes sense. It's kind of like weird tension because people kind of get nervous, like, oh, this person's gonna take my residency.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, there's enough space for all of us to get along. Like, I don't want your show.
Yeah.
You know, you can come DJ at my show. That's cool. Like, that's not my main goal. But people get really like, this is mine. This is my baby. I don't want to bring anyone in. But I think it should be the opposite. I think it's like, okay, like I'm in my 30s. I should start bringing somebody up who I respect, who I can trust, who I can show them the ins and outs, even as far as like setting up equipment. Like, this is the ins and outs of how you do this. Hand your business card to this person. A lot of people don't learn that. So when they become DJs, they get that one residency and they kind of have those bad habits. And they just kind of carry on.
All right, so everybody in my network at the Timberwolves, reach out to Blasé about this because y'all know who y'all are. Y'all know who I'm talking to. Y'all can make that happen. Reach out.
You spoke.
Yeah, I guess that's something that I never really thought about from a DJ standpoint. So me as a designer, we always tend to like move in like a team aspect.
Yeah.
It's very rarely where I find myself being the sole designer, sole creative on a situation. But there's only one Friday night this week, and there's only one DJ that can have that job at that one club.
Right.
So when thinking about, I guess, spreading that wealth a little bit, how does that look for you guys as DJs?
So, I mean, even the way you said that, it's like, it's kind of backwards in a way because it's like, there's that one club, but there's 50 venues in Minneapolis that, you know, need different DJs. So it's kind of like building that network so that, because my like, I get so busy to the point where it's like, I have to turn down a lot of shows where I wish I had someone under me that could be like, hey, like, my little homie can do it. Go do this. Like,
Blasé Jr.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I really am looking, like, anybody watching, I'm always looking to teach DJs and do things. Like, any skill.
What do you do with those? What do you do with those sets? Like you said, you turn down a position. What do you have like a network that you reach out to? Like, put somebody on?
Anybody I recommend. I was like, sorry, I can't do
it.
Because I don't get to meet any of these DJs. So it's like, you know, your brand is everything. So it's like if I put Blasé and friends on something and I bring a DJ who gets too drunk or talk to somebody.
Ooh, that's another conversation. We gotta hop on.
Yo, we could definitely talk about that. You know, DJs get too drunk or they show up late. They, you know, and it's like me again coming from that corporate mindset of Wells Fargo. I'm always early. Everything. Right. You gotta be early. But DJs are kind of like, I'll start when I start and whatever. You know, kinda, it's like because you know, entrepreneur. It's like you guys relate to this very much. Entrepreneur, like people think, entrepreneurs you get to chill more, but it's like you're always on the clock to some extent. So it's like you got to work harder than the 9-to-5 person because 9-to-5 person, that check's guaranteed for them. What are you doing from 5 to 10 or 10 to 12?
Right. Saturday night, Sunday.
Yeah, like I said on Thursdays, every night I work on music. Like you have to be diligent on yourself because no one's there to check on you.
Right.
So a lot of DJs are kind of like, I know I have my show, I'm good. All this other stuff is just an extra thing, whatever. Especially if it's recommended to someone else, like, it's only my thing. Like, I'm just gonna take this, quick little money.
Right.
So it's like I always get really hesitant to that, and I wish I did have people I could reach out to, but typically I'm like, I'm sorry, like, there's nobody I can really trust enough to do it.
That's real though.
So I try to tell them, you know. So I'm just like, it sucks because it's like I wish I could have a little homie under me who could make a little money, and then I know he's good, and I could be somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vision. Like that's kind of like the vision of growing my brand.
Yeah. So you said branding. I want to stay with that too.
Yeah.
So we talked about you building your brand and where it currently is today. And you just talked about, you know, whether DJs can come in late or, you know, getting too drunk on the job. What do you do in order to protect your brand as a DJ?
Well, I don't drink when I DJ. That's like not my thing. Like when I first started DJing, I really stopped drinking. I didn't drink for 2 years because, you know, like the DAP and DJing is like buying someone a drink. Like everyone wants to buy you a drink. That's like respect. Like when you're feeling it, let me buy you a drink. But it's like, if I get offered from 15 people, really, so typically if I have a homie with me, I'll look at my homie and be like, hey, what you want to drink? He'll be like, I'll do a Hennessy and Coke. I'm like, hey, give me a Hennessy and Coke. Appreciate you, bro. And then he'll bring it back. he'll leave, and I'm like, oh, I finished it or whatever.
Right.
Shot, or if I pass it to my homie, be like, oh, you missed it, bro. I just did it. But
those drinks well.
You know, and it's hard because if I accept 3 drinks from somebody and then I don't accept from that person's like, oh, he thinks he's too good for my drink.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, bro. Like, I'm trying to work. I'm reading 1,000 songs in a night trying to find the file of this song. It's like, but some DJs can do it. And respect to them. There are DJs that I've seen who are actually better when they drink, which is kind of crazy. But I just, you know, that's one thing I've always like been really protective of. And it's also like knowing who's around you, like keeping people around you. Like I'm very proactive on sexual abuse and women in venues and like. I did a thing called the Lights On Initiative, which was women feeling comfortable in my spaces because there was like a big wave of people feeling like they were sexually assaulted at venues, things like that. I'm like, I want women to feel represented. That's like why I do what I do, is so everyone can feel safe and party. It's not just to party and wild out and go crazy. It's like I want everyone to feel comfortable. I want everyone to be in danger, whether it's male or female.
Right.
So it's, you know, knowing the people around you. Some people grew up in a way where they think grabbing a woman's arm is okay to talk to them and things like that, and it's not. Anyone watches, it's not. But you know, women are kind of like the main point of making sure they're safe. If they're safe, I feel like everyone has a good time for the most part.
True.
And men just have a little more respect in those spaces. I think they get a little drunk and they buy a girl a drink and they feel like the woman's their property. So yeah, I think just keep knowing who's around you is really, really crucial because you know a friend can mess up your brand by mistake even.
Oh yeah, for real.
So knowing who's around you, I don't drink a lot, always being on time, and always communicating. Like always make sure you're checking your email and communicate with people efficiently and effectively.
Yeah. Is there a way as a DJ that you can set the tone for that, like the safety of women within the environment?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of why if you ever come to any of my shows, there's always like a lot of women on my stage. I always tell women like if they don't feel comfortable in the crowd, always come on stage. And I always tell the security.
Okay.
So I'm like I'd rather have my stage full of plenty of women and they could be off on the side drinking or whatever they do. But if you don't feel safe in the space, let me know. And I'll talk to the security and I'll kick them out without a problem. It doesn't really matter what's going on at that time.
That's dope. That's
real. Real one, right?
That is. That's some real stuff.
No, for real. And that's a lot of venues don't always see the eye to eye on that. They're kind of like, oh, this person spent a lot of money. I'm like, I don't really care. I don't really care.
Right.
Again, I got in this for safety, fun and safety. Because when I used to go out, you know, we've all been in venues where it's like sketchy. You're like, I should be here right now. I should have left 20 minutes ago. You know, and it's like, I knock on wood, I've never had anyone feel that vibe from my shows from what they tell me. And I'm always very proactive in making sure that stays that way. Which is why I've had to turn down some bags because I'm like, this venue doesn't align with my views. But
that's really dope because, like I said, I'm that person that I'm in an event and I can feel the energy change. I'm like, I don't want to be in a club and get shut up energy. I can feel it. I've been, like I said, since I've been going out, I'm like, nah. So like I said, now I won't even go out. So like safety being a big thing is like huge to me when I go out too. So I think that's great that the DJs also finds it important because I think that kind of, again, like you said, that person sets the tone, not just with the music, but kind of with that whole environment too. So that's huge.
That's why I always sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's why I always end my sets with R&B. So like, you ever been in my shows the last like 20 minutes?
Trap,
I end with R&B because it's like men's adrenaline so high, you know, and you're leaving the club or you didn't get that girl's number, you might be mad. I was like, let's just end the night on some love, like just some real slow vibes. That way, it kind of brings it down a little bit, sober up a little bit. Then that kind of evens it out a little bit versus like, you know, leaving on, you know, Mo Bamba and you're just hyping as that. And you're literally just like, I'm ready to knock some out. Because I've had songs where I'm like, I'm ready to fight, bro. Like, this song just got me hype. So I always try to end on like some slow music, real chill. You know, if you want to get that girl's number, this is your time to do it respectfully. And then,
Ain't on that Mo Bamba. Turn the lights on. Everybody get up out of here now. You're like, what?
Be in a lot of venues. They'd be like, well, I'm just turned up now. I need to do something, and then that's when the fights happen outside the venue.
That was my next question. It's like, what other measures you put in place to mitigate, you know, club shootings? That's been a thing. I mean, it's been a thing since clubs have even been a thing. It's like club shootings. But I feel like after the whole quarantine part and going back into like life again, there seems to have been like an uprise in shootings at clubs, particularly here in Minneapolis too.
I mean, the hard thing about that is a lot of them club shootings happen because they have a connect to somebody. You know what I mean? You know, oh, Cornel's my boy, he's good, he doesn't got to get searched, or his boys don't got to get searched. I'm like,
I don't bring guns to the club, just to let you
know. No, definitely not. I'm just saying in general, even with me, like there's been plenty of times where I don't get patted down when I'm not DJing because I know so on and so forth. But I'm like, what if I did have and I have a beef with someone in here?
Right.
You know, because Minnesota's like really like crabs in the barrel mentality, especially in the black community. A lot of people don't like to put other people on, and that person they have beef with, or they tried to holler at the same girl in 2012, and I remember that time, bro. So it's like you get in that environment, you hear that loud music, and then dude might have bumped you or whatever, and now you're on that the whole night.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, you know, and it's hard to. There's no way of really 100% stopping it. But I think it just comes with a lot of people who are tied to those end up knowing somebody who could get them in or do anything like that, which is unfortunate.
So I love that you understand your power as a DJ though. That you're creating the environment. Like, I mean, lights aside, you know, whatever, drinks, smoke, whatever is in there, you're actually creating the vibe for everybody that's in there for the night. And you can go with Mo Bamba, you can go with some Cameo, you know, like, it's really all on you.
Yeah, that's dope. What have been, I guess, some of the changes, like post-pandemic, or not? I guess we're not even post-pandemic, but not from the peak of pandemic to where we at
right now.
Right. Yeah, it's like 2.0 right now.
I feel like everybody was like just itching to get out. So you seen like a change.
Yeah. So when pandemic first started, I wasn't DJing often. I did like 3 weddings, which was kind of weird because it was like mask on. We're not really gonna dance, but we're kind of if we can. So that was kind of weird. Luckily, I had saved some bread. If you're an entrepreneur, save your money. You have to save your money. You never know what's gonna happen.
That's a jewel.
Yeah. So always save your bread. So luckily, I was able to make it through the pandemic. I was stressing though. Like I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what's gonna happen? Like DJing might be done. Like my career is all about people. Literally, I was like, everything's about people. Everything I do is about people. So I try to do like the IG.
Real quick, I'm gonna jump in. Yeah. Did you ever think about going back to corporate during that time, or were you kind of like, no, this is my life now, I'm gonna make this work?
All money in, right?
Yeah, I'm all money in with it, bro.
I love it.
I never thought like I'm about to fill out an application interview. Never.
Okay, I love it.
Never. So I was like, what am I gonna do about this? I tried to think of how to keep my following engaged. So I did a couple of Instagram lives. Which is kind of how my following got to know me a little better. I was doing the DJing, but then copyright infringement, Facebook, you gotta start letting me DJ more because y'all was stopping me a lot. But so then I started doing lives and talking to people on there, which was cool because people got to know me a little better.
Okay.
People don't really get to talk to you when you're DJing,
right?
Which is really hard to build the connects. It's kind of like in between songs, like, oh, good to meet you. Like you're Cornel's boy. Like when your homie came up, like, oh, what's up, bro? But it's like you really got to make sure that's a important connection when you dap everyone up because you never know who anyone is. And it's like you don't ever want to feel like come off too good for anybody. But so when the pandemic, when everything kind of opened back up, it like my world flips upside down because it got so busy. Because everyone like literally everyone wanted to go. Because I'm a DJ. We need a DJ for this event. You know, our wedding was in 2020, but when I were pushing it back to 2021, are you free? So I've had to turn down like a lot of shows because I've been double booked. That's why I wish I had someone right now. So it's like I can't be in 2 places at once. And people, when they want me, they expect like a certain level of, expertise.
Right.
So I'm like always trying to find someone that I can do that. So I'm still always looking. But no, it's been great now. It's like really good.
That's dope.
I thought you had a question.
Nah.
So as we are like ending, like nearing the end of the episode, the question that we like to ask our interviewees when they come in is the podcast is underrepresented, and we created it for specifically Black people that are going through the progression in their career, creative careers, whether you're a designer, photographer, musician, in your case, a DJ. So what does underrepresented mean to you as a DJ?
I think it's just like embracing the underdog. I feel like underrepresented, there's kind of like a benefit in it, because I think people sleep on you a little bit. So it's like that time of when eyes might not be on you, it's that time to really get people to look. I think that's kind of what started me with DJing. I think people kind of expected me to just be like, oh, he's going to come and go. But it's like I came in with a force. So I think underrepresented, I think you can really make that into a great thing. I think it's typically viewed, not with you guys, but I think it's typically viewed as a negative. Like I'm not getting the shine I want or whatever it may be. But it's like, no, like you can get people to look. This is the time where you find that success. Jay-Z and all them people were underrepresented at one time too. He might have been great on the block, but they wasn't viewing him as a DJ. It was like, you want to rap?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like just find that blessing in it and just go. Like I think there's no excuses. If you want something, you can get it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can really put it.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any, I guess like my last question for you is who are your inspirations for DJs? Or I guess not even that. Let's go DJs aside. It could be a DJ. It could be I really get my inspiration from the wilderness. I just like to hang out in the forest and like somehow I just develop these things. So what inspires you as a DJ?
What inspires me as a DJ? That's a tough question. So my inspirations, I mean, my mom, first and foremost. That's literally how I got my DJ career started. I used to sit in the back seat and she would play R&B, everything, like all slow music. So I always kind of think of her when I'm doing a lot of my music and things like that. And I think that's why my brand is so important, because I'm like, it's something that I could bring anyone to my shows, and I know, like, besides the lyrics of the song, but I know it's a safe, it's a safe environment. People know what I stand for. My boy Vincent, he's a big inspiration to me. He's always just kind of applied work ethic for me. He's always just shown me, like, put your head down and get it. No excuses. There's not many DJs I really look up to. I mean, there's a couple big ones. Like, I'm really a big fan of Diplo, just because I like how he mixes hip hop with, like, Caribbean and Afro beats. He's a white DJ, but he does EDM and a lot of different stuff. But I think the thing that really does set me apart is I don't look at other DJs to DJ. Like, I don't want my set to ever look like someone else's. So it's like, you can, and I'm sure designers have the same thing, where it's like, if you look at a certain type of design, you're gonna start finding inspiration. I avoid
design for that very reason at times.
Yeah, so it's like, I try to not even, like, I don't get to go to other DJ sets because I'm typically DJing, but I try to not watch or go out too much, because then it's like I'm either critiquing the person or I'm like, critiquing myself in the venue. So I don't really get to, like, enjoy myself how I should. So I try to just focus on myself and be my own critic with that. But there's a lot of things that inspire me on any given day. You know, it could be a piece of art. It could be, I was working on a cause puzzle. It could be a cause puzzle that makes you think of music. Whatever, TV shows, music on soundtracks on TV shows inspire me sometimes. It's just random. It's really random.
And I know that was my last question, but this is the actual last question. Bonus question. Is there any place or event that you've been to in the last decade of your life that has, like, in this moment right now, you thinking, I guess probably Art Basel for you, like being in that environment, and that was like your coming of age story as a DJ?
Yeah,
so like, it was like so raw, and like, this is really a vibe, and like.
Yeah, I think Art Basel was the one that made me, like, there was the first venue that was like, this is the vibe that should happen all the time. I'd had kind of the opposite of, like, this is not what I want to do, you know? This is not a like I was saying, like, those venues you don't want to be at. I've had a lot of those, which kind of, like, was what inspires me now when I DJ, like, don't go down that route. But Art Basel was like, because I'd gone to Art Basel twice before, once before that. That was the second time I went. And that vibe is just good, because, like I said, it's everyone inclusive. Music is something like that can bring everything together. Like, even if people, if you speak a different language, if you feel the music the right way, you can like it. You know, there's people who literally are deaf, but the vibrations of music, they enjoy it. So it's like, music can invite everyone in if you do it right. So I think that's just kind of what inspires me. That seeing that Art Basel thing and seeing all these different people from all across the country enjoying it was dope. So I think that's like the main thing.
We talked about how music can build memories too. Was there a song that you specifically remember at Art Basel that was like, this is the moment?
Well, Future was playing. It was Metro Boomin was DJing. So Art Basel is crazy, because it's like, I tell everyone, like, imagine Uptown Minneapolis. So that's like Cowboy Jacks and all these different places. But then these record labels and these liquor companies come rent out the spaces. So the rent out the spaces, and it's like free RSVP to go. So you just like go on their Instagram, RSVP to go, and they'll have like Metro Boomin in one venue. They'll have like Lucky Day. Like, I seen Virgil DJ out there before he even had dropped like the Retro Ones or anything. So Virgil's out there DJing. They'll have like Diplo out there. He was decent. I mean, his music's he's interesting, because he'll do like jazz into hip hop. So it kind of like threw me off a little bit, but like the creativity of it, I respected. I respect it more now that I'm a DJ. When I was a DJ, I was like, what's this nigga on? Like, that's kind of what like my mindset. Like, it's kind of interesting. But now I like see how he was making himself different. I respect it more. But yeah, then like Swiss Beats will be out there DJing at like a Remy Martin party. Like, there's just so much random different vibes you can get out there. So yeah, I was like randomly at this Viceland party, and Metro Boomin was DJing, and he did like a whole Future set, because that was when he was producing like all Future stuff. So it was just like crazy, and seeing all these people who like didn't speak any English, like there's obviously a big Hispanic community in Miami, and they were just like going crazy. They didn't know any of the lyrics, but just like they just felt it. And it was just like, the room was just contagious, bro. Like, it was nuts, and they had like all these Viceland photo shoot pictures all kind of all around the room. So it's just like all these different. It's just like a crazy vibe, bro. I don't know. It's just nuts.
I like that, how you talked about from now as a DJ, you can understand Virgil and like what he was doing at that moment. And, you know, we just had that conversation with Alvin about thinking of creative careers being more than just a person making a playlist for everybody to dance to for the night. And how you just understood that with Virgil, that what he was doing is so much more than you could fathom as like a attendee to this event.
And that's the hard thing about DJing too, is like, sometimes you can like think too far in advance for the crowd. Where it's like you can lose them because you're like, oh, I'm doing some crazy stuff, like I'm doing these crazy mixes and scratching and doing all that stuff, and the crowd's just like, bro, we just want to hear the song. Like, my favorite part of the Drake part might come up, and I might not hear it because you're scratching over it. So it's kind of like knowing when to like let off the gas a little bit. With DJs, I see some DJs where it's like great with like technique, like they're just like scratch, do all this crazy stuff, but I'm like, bro, you gotta let them hear the favorite part of the song. That's why everybody came out to hear, like, you know, on the Drake Way Too Sexy. Like, if I'm talking over Future talking, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I like so you not that much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're a great DJ, bro, but we're still here to hear the songs you like. So it's like kind of finding that balance, and I figured that out pretty early.
Sure. Well, I don't have any other questions. You got anything at all, Calvin?
Nothing else from me. I appreciate you coming out.
I appreciate y'all inviting me, man. I'm honored to be here, for real.
Yeah, most certainly. You want to drop your handles real quick on IG
IG,
handles?
pretty much the only social media I use now, but it's the letter I, letter M, JBLASE. Yeah, J Blasé. That's me. I'll make sure we put that. So
for sure.
I think I can spell, hopefully.
You got it. But we love y'all as always. Appreciate it. Calvin, anything? Any parting words?
Let's get some more R&B in our lives. I know myself too. Just kind of cool, little chill out vibes. I'm gonna go jump back in the car. R&B for the rest of the day then.
For sure. All right, y'all.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks.